What's up, y'all? Welcome to the KickBack FC. Appreciate you guys tuning in to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
So, welcome to the Kickback FC, your go to spot for unfiltered, real talk things, all football. We've got it all. We're bringing down the biggest moments, hottest takes, and everything you need to know and stay plugged into the world's game. We'll talk other sports from time to time because if it's big in sports, we've got thoughts on it. But whether this is your first episode with us or you've been rocking with us from the beginning, just want to say thank you again to all of our friends and supporters. Once again, my name is Cornelius. I'm here with my boys and fellow co-hosts. Mike, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. I can't complain. I just got back from fishing. Actually, it was very relaxing, so I'm feeling pretty good. How about you, Salon?
I'm feeling pretty good. I can't complain. We got a special guest with us. How many fish did you catch, Mike?
I only caught four. I only caught four. I'm still amateur. I'm not a pro yet.
Okay, very good. Gabriel, how you feeling?
Not too bad, man. Had a good day. Cornelius, how you feeling?
Another good day over here as well. Short work day, and we got ready for our special guest tonight. But Salam, I want to pass it back over to you.
So today on the Kickback FC, we're joined by former MLS defender Kofi Opare, born in Ghana and raised across South Africa, the U.S., and Canada. Kofi's global journey led him to a standout college career at Michigan and a pro run with the LA Galaxy, DC United, and the Colorado Rapids. Now retired, he works with U.S. Soccer as a talent ID scout and gives back through youth programs like So Kids Soar. Kofi Opare, welcome to the Kickback, bro. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited and honored to be on your show.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. So, you were born in Ghana. You spent time in South Africa as well as the U.S., and then you eventually settled in Canada growing up. So, I want to ask you, how did growing up across these places shape your identity and how your football journey just came to be?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for me, being Ghanaian, football's in our blood, right? Being African people love the game, right?
Hmm.
So I grew up with the game. What's actually ironic or interesting is when I moved to South Africa, I lived there for 10 years. Football wasn't my go-to sport. I actually grew up loving cricket, right? Cricket is huge there.
Mm.
So my brother and I, we played cricket from morning to evening. But obviously, coming from a soccer country and also South Africa too is pretty big in soccer. I played here and there, but I never took it seriously until I
Hmm.
relocated to New Jersey, where there was no cricket, right? So I was like, all right, it's time to adapt, right? What's the next best thing? It's like, well, soccer, right? Everyone knows soccer, everyone plays soccer, so that's where kind of my journey took off. I have an older brother who's 2 years my senior, um,
Hmm.
and who him and I are really close. And we went to a school in New Jersey called St. Benedict's, which is a pretty big soccer school here in the U.S. And that just fostered my love for the game. And so we were playing every day. Our friends were playing, and yeah, it just grew. It just grew from there. Um, when I moved to Canada, so that was grade 9 or ninth grade, as they say in America. I just kept on playing soccer, kept on playing soccer. Fortunate enough, um, I got offered a scholarship to play at Michigan, so I played at Michigan, and then by God's grace, I was able to play professionally here in the U.S. So yeah, no, it's been a great journey. You know it's been amazing to experience different cultures, right? Different societies. And what's interesting about, I guess, my personal journey is, that sense of, you're trying to fit in, right? Trying to find your belonging, right? And I always say this. I always had this conversation with my brother. Moving from Ghana to South Africa, I've always felt like Ghanaian, right? Like, oh, okay, like I'm in a new country. I'm Ghanaian. When I
Mm.
relocated from South Africa to New Jersey, where I felt South African, right? Like the way I spoke, my mannerisms was South African, right? So I always kind of felt like almost an outsider, right? And then when I moved from Jersey to Canada, I was always seen as, okay, the American kid, right? The American kid. And then when I moved from Canada to Michigan, I was always seen as a Canadian, right? Obviously, my accent changed, and like I said, my mannerisms changed too. But the common theme was football, was soccer, right? It didn't matter where I lived. The love for soccer, not just with me, but in other people in the community, was one that united all of us. So that helped to, I guess, shape who I am today.
I'm glad you brought up playing cricket. I was going to ask you, were there any aspects of cricket that you brought to soccer when you transitioned from playing cricket to soccer?
Oh my God, that's a great question. First time I've been asked that question, which is great. You know, as you probably know, like it's two completely different sports, right? Cricket mostly relates to, I guess, baseball, right? Baseball here. So as far as like transition and skill sets that, you know, I brought over from cricket to football, honestly, I would say patience, right? Just having patience. Because everyone that knows cricket, you know, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., you're on the cricket field, right? And you do that for 5 straight days, right? So talk about patience, talk about, you know, being able to control your emotions, right? One is tested in cricket. So I think I brought over those skill sets to football, to soccer. Yeah.
Do you think it helped your hand-eye coordination in any way? So as a soccer player, being able to, you know, kind of have control of the ball while, you know, maybe you have somebody pressuring you, especially as a defender.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when you play cricket, you have to react quickly, right? So when you're hitting the ball, right, you have a few seconds, second or two, to react, right? Sometimes the ball hits the ground, sometimes the ball goes high, and you have to adjust rapidly. Not only that, but you're wearing, you know, protective gear. You're wearing a helmet where you can barely see out of, right? So you need to be able to be in touch with all your senses. So I think, like, you know, translating that over to soccer, you know, football is a fast-paced game, right? You have to react what to really do all the time, right? You have to know about your decision, what you want to do before the ball comes to you, right? You have to think 2, 3, even 4 plays ahead. So I just think just being in that cricket environment helped me to be more cerebral, and to be analytical the way I think the game, and the way I play the game. So those are different qualities and traits that have transferred over to football.
Awesome. So one thing I noticed going through your background is that you've experienced the game in Ghana, Canada, and the U.S. What would you say are the key differences in how the game is played or developed in each country?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, in Ghana, in Africa, as far as resources, we do not have, we're not blessed with what we have here, right, in North America, so U.S. or Canada. So as far as, you know, being on a team or just playing soccer, the environment is completely different, right? So when I was, you know, even a pro, and I went back to Ghana to play soccer, or, you know, even college when I went back, you're playing in dirt. You played in dirt, right? Are not as organized in terms of, like, you don't have brand uniforms. You know, the lines are not painted. The ball's not, you know, 14 psi, whatever it is, right? But you have to adjust. You have to learn how to play in those conditions. And what's great about that is, you know, I just talked about cricket and being able to react and being able to, like, prep and think ahead. In those conditions, it forces you to focus on your touch, right? To have better ball control, right? And players there are less forgiving, right? Ball bounces out, the ball at your chest. Players are not just gonna let it go or, you know, kind of bumpy. No, they're, you know, studs,
Full
right
press.
here. Right? So you have to learn, to playing that way. Whereas here in North America, things are a little bit more structured. Fields feels better. Obviously more resources into into playing. But the one thing I will say is, being in America, you get to experience more of a culture globally, just because of the makeup of American Canada, right? There's a lot of people from
melting pot. Yep.
from South America, from the Middle East, and so you get to experience all these different style of play, right? What people value in the game, right? Whether is the technical aspect of it, whether it's the physical aspect of it. So I think by being here, I was able to grasp and learn and understand the different ways of playing football. So I think like just all my experience and being able to live in all these different countries and playing football in all these different countries has helped shape my soccer journey.
Okay. Yeah. You definitely have a unique background. I want to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to pass it on to the other guys. So my last question for you is: you played in Canada, and Canada is different now in terms of the kind of players they're producing. Example, Alphonso Davies is one of the biggest one right now. Would you say the landscape of Canada soccer is different from back in the 2000s when you were coming up for a player to become a pro?
Yeah,
would you say it's different?
So what's actually interesting about Canada is a lot of people don't give Canadians enough credit for the level of football that is there, right? Obviously, like now the team is doing really well. You have a lot of younger players or just players in general playing in Europe, right? For top teams in Europe. One thing I will say is when I was playing, that the level was extremely high, right? But as far as like recognition, as far as players getting picked for the national team per se, it was almost like localized, right? Meaning that like if you were from the greater Toronto area, those were the players that kind of got picked to play for the Canadian national team and the state team, right? The ODP team. Whereas like now, because of technology, because of like the scouting network, people are able to dip their toes into different regions of Canada, right?
Okay.
So, for example, you brought up Alphonso Davies, right? He's from Alberta, or he's from Edmonton, right? Which is up there, right? and due to the vast scouting network, the Vancouver Whitecaps were able to bring him into their academy, right? So I just think just now more recognition has been brought on Canadian football. But one thing I will say is there's always been talent in Canada, and I'm really happy to see that the world is starting to notice.
Okay.
No, that's a good point because Canada is big. You have Montreal over there, the French-speaking part, and then you have, like you said, Alberta or Edmonton, where Alphonso Davies is from. People kind of just think Niagara Falls and Toronto, but Canada is
not Niagara Falls. I don't think Niagara Falls. They think Niagara.
I'm just saying, like as Americans, when you think Canada, you think Toronto, you think Niagara Falls, but you were talking about the landscape of soccer, but you ended up coming to the U.S. for soccer. So what led you specifically to Michigan? Were you getting scouted anywhere else? And how did that, that time at Michigan prepare you for that next level?
Yeah, so funny story. So when I first moved to Canada, there was a local soccer store, which was a few feet, which is probably, I'll say like a 10-minute walk from where we lived. And the person working that store was a huge Newcastle United fan. So Newcastle United, that's my club team. That's my
Okay. Let me get Isak.
No, sorry, 200 million. You guys can.
We'll talk about that later, man. Definitely.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so the person at the store is a huge Newcastle United fan. He's from Newcastle. His family's from Newcastle. So we develop a bond. And I ended up working there at that store. But this guy, his name is Richard. His brother at the time was assistant coach at Michigan,
Wow.
the university. And in Canada, I would play around, right? So I would play in the local leagues, like I'll play in the men's leagues, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just try to play as much football as I can. So I ended up playing against Richard, who was an adult, at this time, and playing against other grown men. And he's like, he told his brother, hey, like, this person, Kofi, right? He's a really good player. He's someone that I think you should look at. And so, fast forward, my team in Canada from the Niagara Falls region, I played a year up. We did really well. And we ended up going to like the nationals. So we won the Ontario, like a provincial cup, a state cup, and we ended up competing with the best teams in Canada. And so once that was known in terms of the date, Richard told Chris, his brother, hey, like, come and watch Kofi play at this level. With that being said, I forgot to mention I played against Chris as well when he came down to Niagara Falls during the break. And so anyway, so we were familiar with each other. And so, so he came to watch me play in this environment, high pressure environment. And I performed well there. And he was like, hey, like, obviously I can see what you can do ability wise, but the scouts or the coaches at Michigan have not seen you play at all. It's just based on what I tell them. He's like, we have a recruiting camp. So it's like an elite recruiting camp for potential recruits. He's like, I think you should come down there just to play in front of, the Michigan coaches and play against other kids that have hopes of playing for Michigan. So I ended up going down there, and I did well. I played well, and I got offered a scholarship, and I was happy.
Really downplaying it. Hey, I did well.
I was really happy. A school like Michigan came, and B, they offered me a scholarship, right? Because from that region, that Southern Ontario, you could say like Western New York area, or just Midwest area, like Michigan is big, right? Everyone wants to go to like Michigan. Everyone knows of Michigan.
Right.
When I got offered to go there, for me, it was like a no-brainer. And till this day, it was the best decision I ever made going to Michigan, and having to be an adult, having to be by myself, having to learn how to balance, right, both work and soccer. So I think that definitely like prepped me for my professional career.
Before you go, Canoes, I do have a quick question because I just remember I played against Michigan. I went to Cleveland State and we played against Michigan, and I remember we got beat 3-0 that match. I'll never forget that. But no, how was your when you transitioned into college football? Kind of how was that transition for you, and kind of what were one of those things that you had to learn kind of in your early days to kind of find that balance when you were just transitioning to college soccer?
Yeah, so I think for me the biggest obstacle, or the biggest the biggest thing that I had to get used to was the speed of play. Right, speed of play was obviously much quicker because you have the best players from the country, right, from the U.S., Canada, and also around the world. They were playing college soccer. Players are much bigger, much faster. So I think that was something I had to get used to. I still remember this day, my very first collegiate game. I played as a right mid. Okay, I played as a right mid. Don't ask. Yeah. So anyway, try to find a way to get me on the field, and he was able to convince the head coach that I'll be a good right mid. Right? I don't know if he was expecting David Beckham, Mo Salah. I don't know. I wasn't giving none of that. But anyway, so our first game we played Notre Dame.
Okay.
And they had a player. His name is Bride DK. I'm not sure if you guys know him.
Yeah. Right, DK,
his brother plays in England. Yeah, plays in England right now.
Daryl DK.
Exactly. See?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Brad DK, he was a striker, and he was 6'1", 6'2",
Yeah.
and he was like 230, like
He was
230.
solid. He was solid. I remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, listen, and he run like a like a 40 and like 4 point. I don't know. He was so quick,
Yeah.
and that day he scored a hat trick on us. He just ran by us, ended up losing 5-1. So I think and like the other freshmen, we're like, wow, okay, college is different, right? Like we have to level up, right, in all these different departments, whether it's speed, strength, ability to think ahead, to play ahead. So I think that experience helped to prep us, helped to prep me for the collegiate game, and I think once I understood that, I was able to find my way in college. So yeah, that was definitely a great experience.
Let me ask one more question. Did you ever have to play them again?
You know what? We did, but not my freshman year. So
Okay.
I was good with that. Yeah, and I was not playing right mid ever. That's my first and last time. So
No, yeah, that's crazy that you brought up DK, because my next question actually has to do with a few of the players that you did play against. So, you were in college 2009 to 2012. That was a huge year for, I was growing up. I was in high school, middle school around that time. So this is when we're starting to watch Akron. We're starting to watch Ohio State. Being from Cleveland, we watched Cleveland State as well. There were some big teams in the Big Ten and just, the Midwest soccer. So I want to speak to you about playing against Darlington Nagby, when they ran on that 2010 title run. And then you also played against DeAndre Yedlin shortly after when he was at Akron. You guys had some battles. You guys won some, you guys lost some. But what did you recognize about those two's potential, stars back then? What stood out? Did you see their potential when you guys were playing, or, what stood out about that era of just 2009 and 2012, soccer?
Okay, first and foremost, Darlington Nagby is the best player I've ever played against. All right, in college, pro.
Bien Pekin.
Listen, guys, right? I'm not even gonna try to soften the blow or try to make it sound good or whatever. But
high praise.
he is the best player I have ever played against in college. Right? You cannot take the ball from him. Right? Like, and I'm not kidding at all. Any single situation, and I talked about in the beginning of this conversation, being able to think 2, 3, 4 plays ahead. This man was thinking 6, 7. Like it was. I haven't seen anything. Even my roommate too, who I played with, we talk about this, and he was a center mid, right? So he saw Nagby a lot, right? But like I said, his ability on the ball, his movement, his decision making. I think from my freshman year, like we knew he was going pro. Like I knew he was going pro, right? That Akron team in 2010, who first beat us 7-1 that year. We ended up losing 2-1 in the College Cup semifinals in Santa Barbara. I think they had like 10 guys go pro or get drafted from that team. A few of those players I actually played with professionally. But yeah, that team was stacked with talent. You talked about DeAndre Yedlin. So I want to say 2011, I played against him.
Yeah, a little bit later, 2011,
2012. And the one thing about him is, or the first thing that stuck out is he had like a mohawk. I think that's what I remember.
Mohawk with the blonde,
yeah, with the blonde, yeah.
And he was so fast. That's what I remember. He was up and down, nonstop running, right? And I think for me, going to the back of my mind is, wow, Akron is producing another star at right back, right? Before him, I'm not sure if you guys know, there was Kofi Opare. He was a fellow Ghanaian, right? He also played pro.
He went to Houston.
Correct, yeah, Houston, San Jose. He honestly, he was like Trent, right? He was like Trent in terms of making that right back spot his, in terms of being a right back, but not playing as a right back, right? He was playing right mid. He was playing center mid. He was, he was doing whatever he wanted to do. And the first game I brought up where we lost 7-1, he scored a hat trick, right? The right back scores a hat trick, right? So I just remember him, and obviously he played on the national team growing up. But yeah, so when it came to Yedlin, was just like, oh, okay, Akron is producing another one, right? Another star, and obviously he's a Cincy, right? He's a Cincy now.
Yep.
Yeah, Cincy now. He actually played for my team, Newcastle, right? He played for Newcastle United.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, for a few years. But yeah, I'm happy. For me, I'm happy to see both him and Darlington's career path, and how they're able to sustain a higher level, especially Darlington, right? For me, Darlington, he holds that close to my heart, right? Because he's a player that I thought, okay, as good as he is, he might fall through the cracks in terms of recognition, right? In terms of the way he plays, he's not, one of these players that's
Flashy. Yeah.
That's flashy. That's going to dribble 3, 4, 5 players. That's going to score a hat trick, right? Or 2, 3 goals a game, right? But if you watch soccer, if you know soccer, you know how important he is to any team. And Akron, we won a championship with him. Portland, right? Portland, he won a championship.
Atlanta won a championship.
Atlanta championship.
Columbus.
Yep.
Won a championship.
There you
He
go.
wins everywhere he goes.
There you go. And for me, that speaks volumes, right, on his ability. And then off the field, one of the nicest guys you ever meet, you ever talk to. Humble, down to earth, doesn't get ahead of himself, doesn't think he's the best, right? Even though, I mean, some could argue he is, right? But he's humble. So for me, just to see like his continued success is amazing. So I hope that answers on both those players.
No, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously that, being from Cleveland and knowing who Darlington was as a Liberian growing up and finding he goes to Akron, we followed his career very closely, and then Yedlin as well. So hearing that firsthand experience is just always cool to hear, who that player was in college, because we see what he is on TV now, but not everyone got to see him play in high school or in college. So I definitely love hearing that, especially from a defender's perspective.
Yeah.
But before I pass it off to Gabriel, I want to gas you up a little bit, because you talked about your time at Michigan, but we didn't talk about how, freshman year, you're Big Ten all freshman. We talked about how you led Michigan, you helped lead Michigan to that semifinal, eventual loss to Akron, but you did your thing in college, a couple of Big Ten all first teams, second teams, and then you get drafted. But I want to talk about, that period before, you get drafted, senior year. What's going through your mind? Because at this point, you're probably thinking, I have a pretty good chance. But before the super draft, what's going through your mind? What were those conversations that you're having with your coaches about potentially going pro?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So 2010, we did well, right? We did well. Michigan, we went to semifinals, and after that, I talked to my coach, and he did say, "Hey, there were scouts, right? There were MLS scouts, like watching the game and to like the way you played, right? Which was great." He's like, "Yeah, just keep on developing, keep on just being better, right? But just keep that in mind, like you have the potential." 2011, we had a bad year at Michigan, right? We had a really poor year. Where we lost a lot of players, right? A lot of senior figures, a lot of top players from the 2010 team, and going to 2011, was a brand new slate, new players transferring in, new freshmen coming in, and so it was that adjustment period, that learning period, and we had a difficult time, right? We just had a difficult time. We couldn't. Defensively we weren't the best. Offensively, We weren't scoring goals, so things just didn't click. So we ended up with a losing record, and that led to our coach being relieved of his duties. 20 my last year 20 I guess 2013 or 2012, fall 2012. So we had a new coach that came in with his new system, and me being one of the older statesmen on the team, it was my goal. It was my job to help lead the team, to help guide the team. Unfortunately, that year I had a few different injuries. I broke my nose, and I also had appendicitis. Yeah. I think in the span of, I want to say maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I'm wearing like a face mask, which is the worst thing, because you can't hit a ball, right? You try to hit a ball, like the ball hits your face and just like drops down. So, when it rains, like you can't see anything. So that was tough. With the appendicitis, so what ended up happening was we had a game in Vancouver. We had a game in Wisconsin. And the day before, we have a little like prep, a little meal, right? And I told my trainer, like, listen, like, Bill, like I don't feel good, like, at all, right? And he's like, hey, like, let's go to the doctor. So we go to the doctor, and doctor's like, yeah, his appendix is swollen, right? And it's gonna like bust, right? Like pretty much, which is obviously not ideal if it does. And he was like, listen, we have to operate right then and there, right? And so so I went in, I had the surgery done. Obviously I didn't play the next day. But yeah, so we're trying to recover from that, and a broken nose was difficult my senior year. And so, as far as consistency level, that I guess hurt me in a way because I wasn't playing minutes, right? I wasn't as sharp as I could be. So going into the MLS Combine, like I didn't know if I was going to be invited, quite frankly, to the MLS Combine, right? Like I missed a good portion of the season, right? Approximately 1/3 of the season. I had these two injuries, right? Big injuries. So I didn't know how teams were feeling, right? And so so I had no idea what was going on. It was kind of like just kind of waiting, right? Like let's see, like let me keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully, I get invited to the combine. And then once I get there, obviously I need to show well. So I was fortunate enough. How did I find out? My coach called me and told me that I was invited to the MLS Combine, which was amazing. Which was amazing to know that, hey, you're one step closer to reaching your dream. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very, very interesting, and it kind of leads me straight into it because we talked to Dominic Baji about his combine experience, and I'm very curious to really just start off kind of how was your combine experience and what was that, just walk me through it, please. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, no, it was definitely surreal, to be honest. It was definitely amazing. So for me, getting invited there, I was happy to get the recognition to go to the combine, but I knew that it wasn't it, right? I wasn't drafted. I didn't sign for a team. I couldn't celebrate too much because I haven't accomplished anything, quite frankly, right? It was just another opportunity to showcase myself, to showcase my university, to showcase my teammates on a bigger scale. So I do remember going down to Florida, and you kind of get there, you get to the hotel, and you see all these other potential players, right? There's some kids that Generation Adidas kids, right? Andrew Farrell, he was there. There were talks about him, Walker Zimmerman. No, he didn't come there. He wasn't at the combine. but he was one of these players, center backs too, right? That was like highly touted, right? And not to try to read too much into what people say online, but all these quote unquote experts had their mock draft, right? Okay, this center back is going to go here, this center back, blah blah blah, and for me, my name wasn't anywhere on that draft, right? 1, 2, 3, I think, or fourth draft round. So yeah, so my name wasn't there as far as like center backs. Like I wasn't even mentioned as the top, I think 10 center backs in the combine, right? And so for me, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I kind of like being, the underdog. Like I could care less what these experts say. The only thing that I can do is perform on the field, right? I have three days, 3 games to perform well. And so hence I remember our first game, I wasn't starting, right? I was on the second group, right? So we were playing the second half, right? And I just remember telling myself, listen, when you step on the field, right, be you, play the game the way you play the game, right? Be a leader, be organized, organize the guys around you, play simple, play your game, and the rest will take care of itself. And keep in mind what I guess alluded to in the beginning. This is an environment where all the coaches there, right? The coaches, the MLS coaches, right? The assistant coaches, the GMs, the agents as well, right? Like you them, they're all sitting on a bleacher, like watching you, right? And that was, you could tell there was pressure amongst the group because people would talk and say, hey man, that's Jay Heaps, right? For the Revolution. That's, Bruce Arena, like, right? Like we can't do anything wrong. Like I have to show myself. And so what ended up happening was you had players that were trying to do too much, right? They would get the ball and they would try to beat 9 players, 10 players, right? Using the ball and try and do it again, right? And I just told myself, listen, when I play, and this is what I did for all three games I played in, I'm going to be a leader. So when I was on the pitch, everyone heard me. Everyone heard me, right? People on the field, my teammates, the scouts sitting, scouts, head coach, whatever, right? Even a group of, I don't know, kids playing baseball on the far end. They heard me. And I made sure, like, listen, I'm going to show everyone here I'm a leader, right? I'm going to show everyone here why, I deserve to be picked, right? So I just went with that mentality. I was myself. I organized. I communicated well. And I was simple. Right? Played with limited touches. 1, 2, pass and move, step the line up, drop. That's it. And so going into the last day, if teams were interested in you, they would schedule meetings with you. Okay. And so one of the combine organizers, I remember I had meetings. I had 3 meetings with teams that were potentially interested in me. So one of which was Real Salt Lake. Other was New England. And the other was LA Galaxy. Right. And so I just remember like just going into the hotel room and, all the coaches and scouts are sitting there. And they would ask you questions, right, about yourself and your background and, just sometimes some like, technical questions, whatever. And I just remember when I walked in, to the Galaxy, right, the Galaxy room, and I'm looking like, wow, like this is like the defending champions, right? Like this is Galaxy, like, the Beckhams, the Robbie Keanes, the Donovans, like, this is the Galaxy, this is Bruce Arena, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow. So I'm kind of like, I wasn't nervous. I was more excited. And then like they were asking me questions, and it just felt like a conversation, right? I felt so comfortable, and how open, how warm, how friendly they were was amazing, right? I didn't feel like I was being, what do you call it?
Interviewed.
interview. No, we're just conversating, talking about myself and everything. And they got a good sense of me and vice versa. And one thing that I always think about is right before I left, okay, the head coach Bruce Arena, he was like, "Would you mind coming down to like Southern California?" Right? And keep in mind, at that time, I'm at Michigan, right? I'm in Michigan, January. Okay, so it's cold. It's cold. It's freezing. It's snowing, right? And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind at all, right?
Yeah.
And both laughed and I walked away. But like for me in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, just joking. He's just joking, right? And if like Bruce Arena, he has that personality about him, right? He likes to joke. So for me, so I left that as is. Not to mention my other two conversations with those other two clubs went well, but it didn't go as well as I thought. As fluid as the Galaxy. Anyway, so before my last game, okay, or during my last game, I pulled my hamstring. Right, I pulled my hamstring, and I'm like, I cannot not play this, this half. Right, I have to play. If I don't play, and they see me, oh, he's injured again, right? That could hurt my stock.
Yeah.
So I just managed to just grind through the last game, right? I was just here, but I made sure I was organized and make sure I was putting guys in position to do the running for me, right? So I just remember just being so relieved once that game ended. I was like, all right, so now it's time to see if I'm going to be drafted, if I'm going to make the combine, if I'm going to get drafted. So I ended up going back to Michigan, awaiting, I guess, the draft, right? So at that same time too, I packed all my belongings, right, in my apartment. It's like, listen, there could be a chance, I could be in California, right, or California. I could be drafted. Period.
Yeah, no, just everyone's draft experience is just so different, and it's just interesting just to hear everyone's different draft experience. And no, I mean you ended up fortunately getting drafted by LA Galaxy 24th in 2013, which is an amazing accomplishment. Just walk me through what were the emotions that day when you got that joke when you're leaving the room, but what were the emotions that day? Did you kind of hear any chatter at all, or what was going through your mind? And where were you at that moment when you?
So that moment I was actually back in Michigan in my apartment with my roommate, who was also my teammate. Not to read too much. Well, I say that, but I was reading the online.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And they could have had me, okay, like I'm going to be drafted second round, right? Like, I showed well at the Combine. I'm going to be drafted second round to, who do they say? I think they said, to New England. Okay, I think to New England, and there were other teams, but late second round. And I just remember like looking at the draft. I think New England had, I think the 22nd pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think 22nd pick. Galaxy had 24th pick. But kind of like judging by, what the experts were saying, I was going to be drafted, like I said, late in that second round. But based on my conversations I had, I thought, okay, like, maybe New England takes me, maybe, I don't know, Galaxy takes me. I just want someone to take me, right?
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, okay, Boston, January,
Cold.
Angeles, like champions. Like, I'm kind of like hoping I'm going to LA, but obviously, I'm kind of letting things happen. Yeah. And so, anyways, so I'm just there, like we're watching the draft, me and my roommate, and I get a call, right? So I think it's like right when the second round began. So I think that it was like 20. I think from 20 on the second round, I get a phone call. So I remember just like looking at my phone, and it's a LA number, right? So I pick it up, and what I hear is, hey, Kofi, how you doing? I was like, I'm doing it right. He's like, this is Bruce Arena. He's like, just to let you know, we're about to pick you with the next pick, right? With our next pick, right? And I'm thinking, man, like my heart's kind of like I'm still trying to like process this, right? Because at the time at the time the 23rd pick went. I want to say Colorado, but I'm not sure. So I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of looking at the screen, like, like knowing in the back of my mind, like, wow, like I'm going to LA, right? And I see the commissioner going up, and I still remember like what he said, when he got up there, and I remember he was like, with the, what do you say, with the 24th pick, right? Or second round, whatever. LA Galaxy selects from the University of Michigan, right? Defender Kofi Opare, right? And I just remember like just seeing like a picture of my face, like cheesing, right? In my memory. and to show the Galaxy staff, and I think Taylor Tallman, it was Taylor Tallman, and Taylor Tallman and Alexi Lalas, they kind of gave a little brief introduction about me. And I just remember I'm just like there with my roommate is like, who is one of my best friends. He's so excited for me, and I'm just trying to process this, right?
Yeah.
And I start seeing, my phone starting to like blow up little by little, and my dad like calls me, like he's going crazy, like, and my parents are excited, blah blah blah. And for me, I think at that moment, I was like, wow, like I've been drafted. I've been drafted to play professional soccer. Obviously, sign in, that's completely, that's different, right? I haven't signed with any team, but just the fact that I've been given an opportunity to play for a professional team, for me, that was amazing. And I think what's even more special is my mom and what she told me about my dad, right? Because I have African Ghanaian dad, right? Stern, doesn't express too much emotion, right? So it was, go and land, go and study, why you know?
Yeah.
And so my mom told me like when she got back from work, my dad like came out rushing towards her, right? Saying, "Oh, Corey's been drafted by the Galaxy. He's been drafted." And my dad was the most excited person in the whole entire world, right? So for me, just to like hear that, just to know that I've made my family proud, right? Is was surreal. And then a couple of days later, I had to fly down to LA. So I took a flight from Michigan to LAX. So I'm there, like, you're looking up, like palm trees, like the breeze, like I was like, wow, this is really special. This is really, really special. So that was my whole draft experience.
Yeah, no, I could only imagine. I mean, cold Michigan, and then you just walk in. I mean, we're from Cleveland, man. We get it. It's cold. It's cold.
Michigan,
Yeah, it's cold, and then you finally achieve your dream, and then it's a cherry on top when you're able to be in a nice city. It's always great to achieve your dream, but when you have an LA or if you're in Houston or something like that, or Miami somewhere playing, it always adds a different element to it. So no, that's amazing. I kind of want to pivot. You eventually do end up signing with the Galaxy. They give you a contract, which is really, really great. And you ended up scoring a goal that season. Just kind of walk me through scoring that goal professionally. Kind of walk me through that moment and how did it feel?
Yeah, no, definitely. And before I guess get to that moment, I do have to say, I'm extremely grateful to be drafted by LA Galaxy, to be drafted by that coaching staff, right? Like they saw me, they believed in me, and they gave me, the opportunity, to, to play, to come good, to grow as a player. And I say that because there were a lot of players who were drafted before me, and all of a sudden you're in a situation where a team, doesn't want you, doesn't need you, or what do you call it? They sign someone from Europe or whatever, and you're dispensable or disposable. Sorry, right? And so for me, not only do I go to the defending champions, LA Galaxy, but I'm in this environment, this warm, welcoming environment, right? With head coach Bruce Arena, assistant coach Dave Sarakin, Kurtanofo, Pat Noonan, and also the group of players there. Like I brought before, Donovan, Sean Franklin, who's one of my good friends, Robbie Keane, Omar Gonzalez. So I'm in this environment with this group who is the best team in MLS, right?
Yeah.
Right, who has all the recognition globally. But yeah, when I went in there, I didn't feel that arrogance at all, right? Bruce Arena, I remember because I came in because I tore my hamstring at the Combine. And in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, how do I kind of like navigate this? Like, do I really tell the trainers the extent of my injuries? Because I haven't signed yet, right? So am I going to be cut? Whatever. And I just remember like Bruce, he came up to me, he said, Kofi, listen, don't worry, right? Take your time getting back. Whatever you need to do, we are here for you, right? So I think at that very moment, my anxiety kind of like calmed down. I was like, okay, I can do what I need to do to come back, right? I don't feel the pressure per se.
It's like rush.
To rush. So like you're the rookie and you're spending time at the treatment table, right? Like everyone was okay with it. The top players, the coaching staff. And so when I started coming back, and it took me a while, right, to play my first pro game for the Galaxy. And Bruce Arena, and I can't speak highly of him and the staff. And he's not one of these coaches that is talking to you every single day, right? That's telling you, okay, you need this, and this, and this. No, he's the type of guy that he'll come up to you, right, week or 2 or 3 weeks, and just say, hey, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. Just keep progressing, right? And keep in mind, we talk about the transition. I guess before from college or sorry, from high school to college, the transition from college to pro, right? It was like night and day, right? From college to LA Galaxy, right? From college to where I was injured and hadn't played in a while, so I was rusty, I was unfit. All of a sudden, I'm in a training session, and I'm a center back. I'm playing against Robbie Keane and Landon Donovan in training every single day. And what these guys would do to me in training, like should never happen to any player, right? Like the way they'll combine to play around you, like you're just seeing shadows, right? And what's interesting, and I'm bringing this up because as I'm progressing, as I'm training more, as I'm getting sharper, I'm getting advice, right? I'm getting advice. Like I remember Robbie Keane, like he would tell me, he was like, he would tell me like, listen, right? When I look, he's like, don't watch the man. Know where the ball is, know where the man is at all times. He's like, when I do this, I want you to check in, right? But then I'm going to peel behind you, right? And so like Donovan would give me those type of advice as well. And they would like help me become a more confident and better player, right? So I do remember jumping into my first MLS game, my first professional games. And I'll be honest with you, for me, it was like, this is kind of easy, right? This is not this is not what I expected it to be in terms of, I thought it was going to be, tiki-taka around me, meme, whatever. But the way the game slowed down for me was incredible. And I test that to, the way I was coached by Bruce and his staff, the way I was educated by my teammates, Robbie Keane and Donovan, right? And Mike McGee at the time. Like the way they were able to slow the game down for me in the game, I felt so comfortable playing. So fast forward to my first goal. So I'm a center back. I guess I don't score too many goals. So to put some context into it, we had a game versus Montreal, versus the Impact at the time, called Montreal Impact. And this was, and my best friend from back home from Canada, who was my neighbor, his name is Arif Merani. Anyway, so he got struck by a car a few days prior to that.
Wow.
And that was after my birthday too, because my birthday is the 12th of October. And I think we played Montreal on the 16th, I want to say. 15th or 16th, I have to check the date. But yeah, but he got struck by a car and he died. So he was off to university. He had an issue with his car tire, so he got out on the highway and a car struck him. So he died there. So, you know, friends of mine, my parents, they reached out to me. They said, "Hey, like, you know, just to let you know, like Arif died, right? Arif passed away by a car." And obviously him and I were very, very close, right? He was like one of my biggest supporters, right? He would brag to everyone, right, about me, like going to Michigan, right? He was bragging, like he was telling people, like when I got drafted by the Galaxy, he told everyone, he's like, I knew it. I knew gonna get drafted. Like I knew gonna get drafted, right? So he was one of my biggest supporters. So when I found out that he passed away, obviously that was a very like sad moment for me. And for me, I was like, listen, like I'm going to honor him. I'm going to honor Arif any way I can. And I don't know what it was. Like I said, we played Montreal. So the game was being broadcast on TSN, right, which is the Canadian.
Yeah. Toronto Sports Network. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So I knew the game was going to be broadcast in Canada. Okay, so the day of the game, I said, "Listen, I'm going to make a shirt, okay, that says R.I.P. Arif, and I'm going to wear it under my jersey, and I'm going to score, right? Like I'm going to score for him." I told him, "I'm going to score for you. When I do score, I'm going to take off my top, and everyone's going to see and remember you." Everyone's going to see that and remember you. And keep in mind, this is coming from a rookie center back who hasn't scored at all, right? So sorry. I remember the game. You know, we played Montreal. The game was going on. I think it's the 70th minute, 60 something minute. And I just remember, you know, the ball comes in the box, and one of our players shoots it. Ball's kind of coming wide, and I block it, right? I control it, and I'm turning with my left foot. Keep in mind, this is a move like I've never done before, and I've never done after. Okay, and I just remember, like, as soon as I took that touch, I was determined to shoot it, to score. And keep in mind too, like the other person who one can argue was in a better position than me was Robbie Keane. Okay, our DP was our best player, was the best player in this league, right? And he was getting ready to shoot this ball. I was like, no. It's not you, right?
Yeah.
So I just remember like turning my hips, and I just like placed it in the side corner. And I remember once I scored, right, like Robbie Keane, like he tried to like grab me, right? And I just, you know, in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm running straight to that camera, right? Camera. I'm going to take off my top, and so I got loose from him. I'm running, you know. I take off my top, and one of my teammates, you know, tries to grab me. I'm kind of like, you know, just, not right now, son, not right now. And so I'm running towards the camera, and I'm just like holding the RIP, Arif, RIP, and you know, all my teammates like jump on me, and you know, we're celebrating. And then I remember I got a yellow card for that. I don't care at all about that. So once the game ended, I remember, like, you know, Landon was the very first person. He came up to me. He was like, "Oh, like, so sorry. Like, you know, I heard about, you know, your friend Arif. My condolences." I was like, I really appreciate that, right? And you know, the news reporters were asking me about, you know, Arif and what happened, and you know, for me, like so much emotions, right? I'm trying to process all this while just finishing a football game, right? So like my adrenaline's going, and I was talking to the the news reporters and obviously explained to them the situation, and and one thing that I will say is they interviewed Robbie Keane, quite frankly, right? And they asked him about the goal, right? And he went on to say like, I told him, right, meaning me, like I told Kobe to never ever do that again, right? Never take that shot from me. Obviously he says in the joking manner. That was like special as well. And and he also like sent his condolences. The rest of my teammates did, and I just remember honestly going back home. My phone was kind of like going off, right? Going off a little bit. Like, my family was hitting, oh, good game. Like, what you did was really cool. And it was late. So the game ended, let's say 9:00. I want to say 9:30-ish, 10 here. So in Eastern time, it was like 12:01, right? And I just remember like, the next morning, my phone blowing up. Like just blowing up like no other, right? Like no, my phone's going off. Like everyone from back home is sending me messages. People on Facebook are like sending me messages. Kofi, like what you did for me was absolutely, I can't believe, like what you did was so special, right? His parents or his dad's like, Kofi, like what you did is you made Arif known to the entire world. Like, it's so amazing. And also, like, to add to that, one of my friends from back home, his older brother works for TSN. Okay. And he said, hey, Kofi, what you did for Arif was the most incredible act I've ever seen. Right. I'm going to make sure we get this in TSN top 10 place. Simple. Right. And so yeah, so that play, that goal was there. It was on the top 10 plays. And, like I said, his dad said, Kofi, like what you have done, I could never, ever imagine, right? Like I said, you have made Arif known around the entire world, right? You took a moment that is just local in terms of, his family, us, Niagara Falls community, and you made it global. And I think for me, like it still did not register. And like I said, during this time, my phone's going off, everything was going off. People saying, "Oh my God, like I'm so glad to have known you, like and know you. You're so amazing." And for me, like I said, like I didn't really process this even months after until like I went back home, back to Canada during the off season, and I think once I got there, like obviously it was emotional in the sense that like his house right across from mine. Like man, that's my boy Arif's place, right? I went over to his parents' home, and when I scored the goal, there was a picture of me like celebrating, like pointing to the sky. And his parents like framed the article, big article on their wall, and they're like, his dad is like, my son. He's like, Kofi, you're my son, right? Like, look at this, like look what you did for Arif. And I started to process all this, right? I was like wow, even until this day, when I look at that goal, it still gives me like goosebumps. Like it still does. Like just to try to like, my mom says like, God aligned everything, right? The fact that I said I was going to score, the fact that I did score, the fact that it was a game winner, the fact that it was against a Canadian team, so the game was being broadcast in Canada. Just everything just aligning was a miracle, So like until this day, that is honestly by far my greatest professional like memory experience. I can't make sense of it until this day. Like, well, until this day, I still can't make sense of that moment. But yeah, it was. That's my first goal. So it's incredible. It was incredible.
That's a lot, man. Sorry, Gabriel. I just wanted to say something real quickly, man. I think I took away a lot from that. I think the first thing is you're a very selfless individual. I think for you to take away, for a moment to be so big for you personally, to score your first professional goal and to kind of share that moment and honor your friend, and rest in peace to Arif as well too. I think it really says a lot about you, man. And I think definitely like his family, like bro, like that's a big moment for the community. And I'm happy that you were able to get that. And I mean, the crazy part was I watched that goal and I saw your teammates were obviously happy for you. It's your first goal. So like they were, I mean, you did a very good job of trying to get away, and you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there's a lot of bodies, man. And it's just, and it's also too just kind of hearing like your perspective, like even after the game, it's like, I guess as fans we don't really see that, but like for you're dealing with so many emotions. You lost your friend, you just scored your professional goal. You still got to maintain your professionalism and kind of meet your obligations for the media as well too. Like that's a really interesting perspective that I feel like an average like casual fan may not see as well too. Like athletes, kind of go through like real shit as well too. So nah, what a moment, man. I rest in peace to Arif as well too.
Yeah.
I did I did want to say this here. So you leave the LA Galaxy, you go to DC United, and there's a specific play that I really want you to walk us through. The the infamous Wayne Rooney play. You were on the field for I mean, to me, I would say one of the most iconic plays in
Ever.
MLS history.
Football history for me, bro. That was, I think about that a lot.
Yeah. I'm a Man United fan, so obviously that's really I started to really follow you guys heavy once he went over there. So but that moment was massive, man. So I mean, you guys versus Orlando City, game is tied 2-2. You're in stoppage time, 6 minutes added on. I think we're at the 95th minute at this point. Kind of walk us through, like, I guess, your perspective of what happened that moment.
Yeah. So so actually, before I jump into that moment, I have to give a little bit of context. Okay. So when we signed Wayne Rooney to DC United, I was also like rehabbing, coming back from an injury. And so when he came, it was just kind of like him and I in DC, because the team at the time went to the West Coast for a game. And at that time, we were in last place. We were in dead last place. And I remember he told me this. He said, hey, like, we are going to make the playoffs, right? We are going to make the playoffs. And I'm like, yeah, bet. Right? Like, but he had this thing. He had this, like, he knew, right, the level we had on the team, that we were capable of doing so much. And there's been like a stigma, with European players, especially getting up there in age, like when they come to MLS, is this kind of a retirement league, right? But he came here, and for him, he was like, no, I'm here to work. I'm here to work for the team. I'm going to show everyone what we can do as a team. Okay. So fast forward this moment here, right? The score's tied. Obviously, we needed points, right, in order to qualify and put ourselves in a good standing. So walking you through that play, we had a corner kick.
Yeah.
So I'm going up, corner kick. Okay, the crowd, the momentum's behind us. The crowd's going crazy. This is our chance to score. The cross comes in. If the corner kick comes in, I jump up. I head the ball. Okay, and I thought it was going in, and they cleared it off the line. So I remember just like putting my head on my hands on my head, kind of in dismay, like, oh no, I was kind of like so close, and I kind of like turn around, because the back of my mind, like, okay, I gotta get back. Yeah. And as I turn around, like I'm looking at an object right in front of me. And this object is my keeper. I was like, hold on, like something, like white, like this is not supposed to be, right? And that's my keeper. I was like, trying to think, like, what's he doing all the way up here? And
Yeah.
I'm looking at the ball, and their player, Will Johnson, I believe.
Yeah.
Johnson. He was through. Okay, so he's through. There's an open goal.
Mhm.
In the back of my mind is, this is a goal. They're going to score, right? And so
Yeah.
I just put my head down. I'm trying to get back. And then I just see Wayne. Like, Wayne is just taking off, right? He's taking off, and, he makes an incredible challenge. Like, until this day, like, I'm not sure how he was able to A, make that challenge, B, keep it.
Keep the balls.
Oh yeah.
Listen, and we're talking about the 90-something minute. Okay,
Yeah.
90-something minute.
The
He does
recovery
all
too.
that. It's incredible. He takes a couple of touches. Okay, he plays this perfect ball. So I just remember when he played, I'm kind of like running backwards. I turn around and I'm kind of looking at the ball, right? I'm just kind of looking at going on a line. Our midfielder, Lucho Costa,
The shortest man on the field.
he's like 5'3". 5'3", okay? He manages to win a header over someone that's 5'10".
Yeah.
Wins the header. Ball goes in the net. That's his hat trick. He's celebrating. Everything is crazy, going wild. I remember, like, I'm trying to catch my breath. Like I'm trying to catch a breath. Like, I'm like right next to like Wayne, right? And I'm trying to talk. I'm like, wait. I'm like, is this the goal? Like, we're just trying to process all this information. And then, like, him and I are like celebrating, I believe, like, or we're all ecstatic. And then the referee blows the whistle. It's going to VAR. He does this, right? It's going to VAR.
Oh,
It's like, oh no, like what's happening? Right? Like, is this going to be a goal or not? And then, he checks it, and then he calls it a goal. And I just remember, like, just the emotions, right? Like, when I talk about moments, like, I talk about Arif being the most memorable moment for me. This moment here was second by bar none, right? Like, Wayne goes down, Lucho, like, takes off his top, he's celebrating. And I think, I don't know why, but like, at that time, my thought process was to get his jersey and put it back on him, right? So I took his jersey. I'm trying to put it back on, on him. Like, I'm ecstatic. I'm trying to process all this information. And then, the game ends. We end up winning. And, we're all just in awe. Just process those last few minutes.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Right? 2-2, game style, keeper comes out, clearance, a striker runs all the way back, makes the perfect of challenges, is able to still have the ability and the composure to play a perfect ball to someone that's 5'3" to score the game winning for that. Like, it was surreal. It was
bro.
it was a surreal moment.
Yeah, and I just the ball he played was just like, I remember seeing it and I was just like, there's no way. I was like, this is just it just seemed like he lofted it so much. And then, like, when I saw the person that it was going to, I was like, I mean, this would have to land on Luciano Acosta's, like, it has to land on his head.
But still, Acosta needs to have the ability,
yes,
to still get it on frame.
Finish. Yeah,
like,
100%.
It was amazing. It was. I can't speak highly of that moment. I cannot speak highly of the moment, and I think that was a moment too where everyone said, "Hey, Wayne's here to play. Hey, DC United is here to compete, to push for positions." So yeah, that was special.
Yeah, well, no, 100%, man. Go ahead, Cornelius.
No, just a comment on that. So I was a freshman in college in 2013. And my best friend is a United fan. And, when Wayne Rooney Similar to Salon when my friend Rajat, when Wayne Rooney went over to DC United, him being from Columbus, he's a Columbus Crew fan, but we would watch DC United games today. And I feel like at that point, the MLS was starting to get some European players and it was starting to get some pedigree. And there was the whole retirement league. But, right in the mid 2010s, you started to see the shift in the MLS to, instead of it just being let's kick it to the keeper or kick it to the forward and hope he can hold up play and have, the game, move up to him. There was a lot more interplay. There was a lot more of the European style of playing. And I think that was a moment I feel like the US was like, oh, there are levels to talent,
Yeah.
just the whole sequence, sprinting
Mhm.
back, getting the ball, making that perfect tackle, and then being able to ping it, right on the six. Like I said earlier, I don't think I've seen a better football play, and I've watched a lot. I've seen a lot. That's one of the best plays I can remember. Just watching live, kind of seeing everything come to fruition. It's cool hearing your experience because as a fan, I'm just
Yeah.
how did he get that done?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and you know what too, like, we talk about the experience of that moment, and I think honestly for all of us, like I know definitely for myself, in that moment, like I couldn't celebrate, right? Because I was just trying to breathe. Like we're all just trying to breathe, right? Just trying to make it. So just after that, or like the night over, even the next day, a couple of days later, it's just like, wow. When you start to see like the replays and people posting about it and whatnot, it's like, wow, that was a special moment, right? And to do that too in our new stadium, right?
Yeah.
The fact that had, because that could have been away, right? It could have been, I don't know, it could have been in Orlando, but the fact that that was in DC in a brand new stadium
Mhm.
was amazing. Was just enough to get the buzz going in the district. So
Yeah, I'm curious, man. I mean, you've shared like you've been in the same locker rooms as a lot of great players. We just mentioned Wayne Rooney. You talked about Robbie Keane earlier, Landon Donovan, Luciano Acosta. Kind of, I guess, kind of like what did you kind of take away from like playing alongside them? Just because I don't know, to play with someone like Wayne Rooney, obviously speaks to your ability and your for you to be even in the position to play alongside someone like that. But kind of like what did you kind of take away from like those experiences?
yeah, I'll say honestly, first and foremost, how relatable they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's always like a notion, if when the general public sees figures, right? In this case, sports figures, they tend to make assumptions on them, whether good or bad, based off what the media says, right? What the media says. So I think for me, like just being in the locker room with these players, right, just to know how personable they are, how funny, how relatable they are, is amazing. And for me, like that's like my takeaway from them. All amazing human beings, right? Funny human beings. Love to have a joke, right? Love to, have banter with the group. Obviously, that switch turns off once you get on the pitch, right? Professional, whether it's an hour, 2 or 3 hours on the pitch, professional. Once you get off, we laugh around, we go out, we hang out, with each other. But how professional they are. And just to go off that too, and that's kind of my experience as well. Playing with European oppositions, right? So when I was with the Galaxy, we played against AC Milan, and at the time, Mutari, Pingani, Mutari, Prince
Yeah.
Boateng, and
El
Balotelli.
Shaarawy was there
Wow.
too,
That's
right?
right, 100%.
hmm
And for me, I was going against Balotelli, and I'm kind of like I admire Balotelli, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, like what the media portrays him, right, is not in the most positive of light. And I just remember, like, on the pitch, like him and I were just having conversations where I was asking him, like, how he's doing, like, how's things. And we're having a full blown conversation, and we're talking about Ghana, right? Oh, I love Ghana. Like I'm only eating Ghanaian food, like, you know what I mean? And like for me, I'm thinking, well, this guy is so human, right?
Yeah.
He's a big name, right? People say he does this or this, but when he had these communication or conversation with them, the humans, right? And that's the same experience with the guys in my locker room. Great humans, great people. So that's the takeaway, honestly. I have from them.
I mean, you brought up AC Milan. I know Gabriel had a question about a preseason game.
Yeah, man. Ended up in Colorado for a year. Preseason, I'm the resident Arsenal fan on this here podcast, and you played against, I'm 26. I'm the youngest out the group, so this wave of Arsenal, I've truly grown with them, since young, especially Saka and Ketia. Walk me through that, man. Please, just walk me through what was it like to play against a young Saka, a young Arsenal team. What was that experience like?
Yeah, no, it was an interesting experience. To be honest with you. So for me, I'm a huge fan of Lacazette. Right, I'm a huge fan of Lacazette. Like I love his style. Like I love the way he plays. Like I don't know, I love the way he wears his what do you call his undershirt, long sleeves, the beard. Like I just like the way scores go. I'm really a huge fan of him, and also like Aubameyang, right? Aubameyang. Obviously he's plays for Gabon, right? Plays for Gabon.
Yeah.
Him and I like follow each other on Twitter, like So I'm like, listen, like I have like mad respect for you, right? So kind of going into that was kind of like my thought process. All right, honestly, I just want to get like one of their jerseys. I'll be honest with you. I want to get one of their jerseys.
Respect.
It's a big team. And what's interesting with the names you just brought up is, for me, right, I'm looking at the big names, right, at the moment.
Yeah,
right? Aubameyang. And Ozil.
Ozil was on that team as well. He was on the bench. I don't know if I don't know if he shared the pitch, but I know he was on the bench to start.
Actually played against him when I played against Madrid. When I was with
wow, you played against Madrid too?
Yeah. That's my very first professional game. That's my very first professional game.
Oh, hold on. We got to talk about that afterwards.
For sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so Ozil was playing. Ozil played this game. It's funny. Him and I actually had a conversation, and I kind of brought up, hey, like I don't remember. I played against you when I was with LA Galaxy, and you was with Madrid, and he was just so free. Like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But I know back in his mind, he didn't remember that at all. But anyway, I did. But getting back to it, so I played like in Nketiah, even like Saka. Okay, like when we play these, like when I play a lot of these like friendly games versus European opposition, they play a lot of their kids, right? They play a lot of their kids, and a good majority of them don't make it right in the first team. They play for other teams in the Premier League or they play, Championship League One. They don't make it. It's such a tough environment to break into, right? So with Saka and Nketiah, it's funny. I think Saka scored versus us, but he was playing left back. Okay, he was playing left back.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest with you, I didn't think much about him at all. It's all right. This guy, he's a left back. He's quick. He goes up and down, like whatever, right? He scored. Okay, nice. 3 years later, he's star boy, right? He's like, he's a star for England. And I'm not gonna lie, back in my mind, I was like, man, like maybe I should have got his jersey, right? Like, but no, it was definitely an amazing moment. Just to be able to play, be on the same field as these guys was incredible. Even to know that their manager, Emery was the manager at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember him like after the game, like him and I were having like a word. He was just so friendly, so like I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I have so much respect for these teams, right? For these players. I thought that was a really amazing experience to play against them and play against these players.
No, that's amazing experience, man. I want to get into your kind of like what you're doing now before we get into rapid fire questions. You're now working with the U.S. Soccer as a talent identifier.
Mhm.
How has that experience been, and what do you look for in young players with pro potential?
Yeah, no. So I love this job. I love this job. Um, I think what's for me, what's amazing about it is I get to be part of that process in identifying potential players, right, for the
Mhm.
national team. Everyone's development is different, right? Some people are early developers, some people are late developers. I think like for me being through that system, um, I understand what these kids are going through, right? In different stages of their lives, right? Like, trying to combine obviously playing soccer with trying to find their identity, whether it's, being too short or being too long or just trying to fit in school or, there are different households. So I know there's a lot that factors into the product we see on the field. And I can like sympathize with them because, like I said, I was once in their shoes trying to make it, trying to put my best foot forward for different scouts. And quite frankly, I was given the chance by someone that saw me and that believed in me. Right. So for me in this role, yes, I'm looking for the best players that can represent us. But I think what's great about what I do is I get to see it from my lens, right? Like what talent is. Everyone, has their different ways of viewing talent. When you work with the US soccer, there's like a blueprint of what you look for. But for me, just given my experience, I look at certain characteristics, certain traits, which I think it's so important in finding the right player. Because we all know, talent is just not located on teams that play for the top academies in the country, right? If you look at all these like smaller clubs, or even if you go to the park, right? If you really look, like you'll be able to see something in someone. So for me, that brings me joy. And what I look for, obviously the first and foremost your ability, right, on the ball, like how you
Right.
pass, how you move, like how you read the game, how you scan, but also look for your tactical or tactical awareness, right?
Right.
Like how do you observe space around you? Um, do you play limited touches? Your decision making process, right? So for example, if I'm looking at two center mids, whatever, yeah, two center mids, one center mid is, let's say the U13, right? One kid is 6'3", a U13, right? This kid is bigger, faster, and so he's able to just, pretty much run by players and score goals, whatever. He's a star player. Obviously, it's easy to say, okay, this player is the best player here. But if that's his sole trait, when other kids grow older and that being even, other kids are going to surpass him if he just solely relies on that. So when I look at a kid at a U13, he might be underdeveloped, right? He might be really small, but when you watch him play, he's always checking over his shoulder. He's playing with limited touches, 1-2 touches. When he gets the ball, he's looking to break lines, to play forward, or even to like to switch the point of attack. The ball might not get there, but in the back of my mind, I think to myself, just his thought process, or just the fact that he's, has that idea in his head of trying to, break lines or trying to switch the point of attack, right? Once he gets older and obviously more powerful, or his technique improves, he will be able to play that pass. So when I compare a player like him with a player that's just bigger and stronger, I can see how a player that's not as physically dominant, right, can succeed. So that's a player I look at and said, hey, this kid has potential to succeed. So yeah, there's so many different evaluators to look for, for me, for us, but there's more than one way to develop,
Right.
right? You don't have to be like the biggest, the fastest to develop, or you don't have to be the best player or the most technically gifted player to succeed, right? You don't have to play at the national team level when you're 14, 15 to go and play pro, right? No, it's showing continuous growth and development, right? If you put in the work, if you put in the time and the effort, you can be successful, right? Like your starting position, that's not where you're going to be, right? That's not where you're going to end up, but it's what you do with the opportunities that are presented to you. In the end of the day, that helps to determine whether you are successful, right? Whether you put yourself in the best position to be successful. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No, definitely. I appreciate that perspective. Last question before we get into rapid fire. You're also involved with So Kids Soar, which is a nonprofit that works with youth through adaptive sports. What drew you to that cause, and what kind of impact are you hoping to make?
Yeah. So, what drew me to that cause? So, when I moved to DC, one of my former teammates, Sean Franklin, good teammates with me here in Galaxy and in DC. So he was involved with So Kids Soar. At the time, it was called Dream for Kids. And he was like, "Hey, like, do you want to get involved? We help set up like clinics and different events for kids and people with physical and mental disabilities." And so I got involved that year, 2015. And for me, I absolutely loved it. Right? For me, I don't like using the word giving back, but I love being involved with the community, right? I like using my platform to help, for lack of a better word, bring positivity to others. And for me, what I saw was, a simple act of playing soccer, right, with a kid who has been in the hospital for various reasons. Just for an hour or two, the amount of joy and happiness that brings not just them, but their caregivers, their families. For me, it was a no-brainer. So I became an ambassador for that group, and I've been doing it for a decade now, actually, and I absolutely love it. Every single time I do it, I absolutely love it. So I do like virtual clinics, like soccer clinics. So where it's like via Zoom, and I have like a soccer ball, and I'll kind of lead the session with students and kids, and I also do like in person clinics. So actually, last month or 2 months ago, I actually went out to DC to host a soccer clinic, and I got a couple of my one of my friends involved with it. And for me, every time I do it, I'm always reminded why I do it and how much I love it. Right? Like when I see these kids, just how happy they are when I see you know the caregivers, the parents, and they come up to me, and they're crying, like they cry like, "Thank you so much for doing this for so and so." Like, I've never seen him like this happy, or I've never seen him like talk to anyone, before. But now he's social. Now he's happy. Now he's for me, that makes what I'm doing worthwhile. And like I said before, I don't feel like what do you call it? I don't feel quote unquote obligated to do it, right? Like I do it because I know, like, with my platform, I can make a positive difference in other people's lives. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing, man. And wow, just really speaks to your character, man. I think that's really what I've gotten from this conversation. We just kind of before we get into rapid fire, we had Bill Hamid on here, DC United legend, and he spoke very highly of you and said, you were a very down to earth individual, a very good dude, and he talked about just how much you meant to him. Before we get into rapid fire, I would love to just kind of hear kind of your thoughts on Bill and just kind of how your guys' relationship is.
My goodness, yes. So Bill's my best friend. My Bill's my best friend. It's what's interesting is when I first moved to DC. I moved to DC. You kind of in a new environment. You're just trying to find your way, and Bill was one of one of the guys, right? That
Mm.
honestly, I can't even explain it. We just clicked, right? We just clicked.
Mhm.
We just clicked, right?
Mm.
Whether it's the fact that our West African uh, background, our similarities in music, right, in food, um, in culture, we just grew. We became roommates. I got to know his family. He got to know my family. And the one thing I'll say about Bill, he is authentic, right? Bill is so authentic. Is not someone that's gonna tell you what you think or what he thinks you want to hear, right? He's open, he's honest, um, and he will vouch for you until the very end.
Mm.
And there's very few people, very few people that are that way, right? Like especially in my life. And I think one thing about Bill is it doesn't matter the situation, the environment. I always have a great time with him. Anytime I have a conversation with him, I feel so elevated, right? I feel so, what do you call it? Like purposeful. Like, he's such a good human being to its truest form. Um until this day, anytime we communicate, we have a laugh, right? We whether it's about football, soccer, whether it's about family, whether it's about music, like we have the best time together. And I think when I look in the present and future, when you think about people that are close to you, people that you want around you, around your circle, um he's definitely one of those guys, right? Like, and I I said best friend. Like, I don't see Bill, I lied, as my best friend, right? Like, I see Bill as my brother. Like,
Mm.
he's like a family member to me, right? And that's the same way I feel about his sibling, his sister, like his parents, like like they're my family.
Mm.
And I know, like, my family he feels the exact same way about my family. And this goes, like I said, beyond football. Like, I know years down the line, him and I are still gonna be extremely close, right? Like, we don't have to talk every single day, but when we do talk, just the amount of time that feels like has not been missed, like, for me, like, that tells me everything I need to know about our relationship.
Right.
Like I said, it's authentic, it's real. And in our business, it's tough. It's very tough to find authentic and real people, right? There's a lot of people that want to be associated with you just because of who you are,
Yeah.
as a soccer
Mhm.
player, right? As an athlete, right? So, but by nature, I'm reserved, right, to open up myself to just people.
Mhm.
But someone like Bill, like I said, like, obviously we have similar background, similar taste. It I can open up to him, right? I can completely open up to him, and vice versa, where it's a safe environment, right? Where it's a healthy environment. So yeah. So I miss him. I tell you, every time we talk, um, I texted him we texted a few days ago, like I miss him. Like, I miss the moments we have, So yeah, I can't speak highly enough about him, and even like when I do talk about him, like, I'm getting emotional, because
Mhm.
that's my guy, that's
Yeah.
my brother. So
Shout
yeah.
out Bill
Love that.
Hamid, man. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
actually
that's
Yeah.
a-
gonna. Yeah, we're actually gonna. He's having a great season with Miami FC
Miami
right
FC.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing really well in the USL. We're actually gonna go pull up on them and watch them here soon in July. So looking forward
Yeah,
to
and
that.
and something about Bill is, a lot of people don't see the work he does,
Yeah,
right? They
he
Mhm.
works.
do not see the
Mm,
right. Ever since I've known Bill, the amount of times you see him, not training related, in the gym, right? Even after training, like he has his own separate like trainer, own separate gym that he goes to, and he's working out. Midnight, he's working out, right? Every single time he's working out to put himself at the level he has, right? Even, right before signing for Miami, there was a tough spell where he didn't have a football club, right? And obviously, I know the toll it takes on him, right? Someone that has, done so well for so long. All of a sudden, you're in a situation where you're just looking for an opportunity, and a lot of teams are saying no for whatever reason, right? Just knowing him, how determined he is, the belief he has in himself to continue to train and work hard, I admire that so much. And people don't see that, right? People just see, okay, I see Bill Hamid make the save on Zlatan, or you know what I mean? Bill's doing this, like MLS goalkeeper of the year. Like, yes, he deserves that, but the work he puts in every single day is incredible, and that attests to his character, as a person. So for me, I'm not surprised at all he's doing well in Miami. I'm not surprised. I'm just surprised it has taken it's taken teams this long to give an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely, man. That's great insight, man. Shout out to Bill. I mean, yeah, like you said, you've been on a bunch of great teams. You've had a lot of exceptional teammates. So just to kind of wrap up, man, I just wanted to say thank you again for giving us your time. To have this experience with you today has been very insightful, man. So I really appreciate it. So guys, I don't know if you guys have anything before we get out.
Now, the only question I have for you, your favorite Ghanaian dish. You look like a watching guy. You look like a watching guy.
I haven't had watching in a long time. I actually had kotombre.
Oh, okay.
But of course, jollof is there, but fufu.
Okay. What kind of soup? Light soup. Okay.
Oh,
Right.
when I lived in DC.
Oh yeah, that's a good spot. Yeah.
I think 4 times a week.
Oh
My goodness! Hey,
wow.
that's my favorite food.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, what's yours?
Oh, watch it, man. I can you watch it Monday to Sunday.
Okay. Yeah. I will say quickly. So I remember this is a mistake I made. Okay. So when I eat Ghanaian food, I try to eat somewhat lighter portions or a lighter dip. And I remember 2015 we had it was playoffs. I remember this, and we played at the Red Bulls, right? We played at Red Bulls in New York, and I think on Thursday, right? I ate fufu. I kid you not. We played on Sunday. I was still full. Like I was and that's when I can't any can't be getting food like 2-3 days before a game, like beginning of getting close, like let me chicken and the nice easy,
That's funny.
But it was good though. It was good.
It was moving heavy. It's like, that was the.
That's crazy. I'm the complete opposite. I eat Liberian food about 4 or 5 hours before the match. Oh, I am running for days, up and down. I'm good. Oh man. But I just want to say thank you again for sure. It's definitely very, very insightful, and it's really cool getting to hear just from the origin story to where you are now. Following your career from back then until now, man. It's been really dope. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, again, just to close, it's cool to hear your story, but then also just how you're using your experiences now while you're identifying talent in the youth, and I think a lot of your experiences are helping you now in your new your new role of picking new kids, because a lot of them can kind of look at what your career path was and kind of see that there are different ways to make it. So thanks again for just sharing, and looking forward to everything that you do. I have one last question. Who are some names that you would say coming up, some names that we should look out for in the youth?
In the youth that you probably don't know. Let me see. Matisse Altis. So he plays. He's a winger. He plays for Dortmund. He used to be with LA Galaxy Academy. He signed with Dortmund. He's a player. He's a player. Prince 4-4. So he plays with Columbus Crew. He's like a winger, left-footed winger, almost similar to like Yeboah.
Okay.
Really, I've seen in terms of his style, but up and down, he's a very good player. I'll say definitely look at those two. But this, like I said, there's a lot of players in that pipeline that have shown well. So yeah, you have to go down the list, but there's so many talented players that if they continue to progress and take the right steps, they'll be household names very soon.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing what you continue to do with, shaping the next generation of the national team, and then as well as the nonprofit with So Kids Soar, man. So thank you again, Kofi. We really appreciate it, man. And just thank you for pulling up to the kickback, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, guys, thank you. I appreciate, I guess all of you guys, right, taking the time, right, to have this conversation with me, right? Like I've had a great time just having this dialogue with you guys. Now I think it's been good. I think it's been fun. So yeah, thanks again. I wish you guys the best in your future endeavors.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's actually my line.
That's insane. That's how we close out every show.
Yeah. Well, shit, I don't even know how you just say it, but appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you again, Kofi. Good luck to you in your future endeavors.